Another name that's been getting a lot of hype for quarterbacks is somebody that I'm not interested in that hype for, and it's Deshaun Watson. So, as we say every single time that we talk about Deshaun Watson, for the time being, for this show, remove all the off the field stuff. It's not even about the off the field stuff, it's about the on the field stuff. And in fantasy, as the QB9 in current ADP, I'm not interested in rostering Deshaun Watson. And it's partly to do with him not playing quality football since 2020. It's partly to do with the offense that he now finds himself in that is not reflective, or it wasn't last season, of this type of quarterback. It is very much a system that was designed for it's the quick throw quarterbacks, right? It's the established, systematic quarterbacks, not the I'm going to scramble and then chuck this thing down the field quarterbacks, which is a lot of where Deshaun Watson's value came from when he was in Houston. It's not Houston. Houston was great because they're always trailing, and Deshaun Watson always threw a lot of fantasy points for you in the third and fourth quarters of games. With the Cleveland Browns, they are a more traditional style offense, a little bit more of a ground and pound. It's why we love Nick Chubb so much, with or without a secondary running back there. Maybe Deshaun Watson is able, to your point about Joe Burrow, maybe he's able to make up some of this gap in what we saw in the absolutely lackluster passing last year with his rushing upside. Maybe, but this doesn't feel like the offense that is still going to let him be as mobile or need him to be as mobile as he was back in 2019, 2020. I like Amari Cooper fine. I'm glad that they added Elijah Moore. That's a second option that they didn't really have. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I know people like DPJ. He's fine, but it is nice to see them add somebody like Elijah Moore. Even with all of that, at QB9, it's just not interesting to me. He looked so bad in the games that he played last season. Maybe it's rust. Maybe that rust gets fixed over this offseason. But at QB9, you better be damn positive that it's gotten fixed. I haven't seen anything in camp that came out outside of the obvious fluff stuff where it's like, yep, this offense is completely new, completely revamped. In fact, I've heard that they're holding over a lot of the aspects from last year's offense. So I don't get it. QB9, I'm never going to be interested in him there. I would rather there's a number of guys, and we're going to talk about at least one, maybe two next week who we would take, or I would take beyond Deshaun Watson. But QB9, is that a line that is a hard no for you, Dustin, as well? Or are you tinkering with the idea?
I'm actually pretty okay with him at QB9. You have to remember, he wasn't playing football for over 2 years, basically.
Sure.
And when he came back, it was week 10? Or no, he was suspended for the first 10
Came back
games.
Week 11, I believe it was. Week 11 or 12.
You're 2/3 of the way through the season. You hadn't been able to practice with your teammates. He didn't get an off season, no training camp, all that. He basically came back cold. Yes, we were hoping he was going to stay in shape and be football ready. But let's be honest, you're going to expect a little rust after 2 years of not playing. And that's exactly what we saw. And your point, Amari Cooper, he's fine. He's fine. Wide receiver 2 for fantasy. You got Elijah Moore. I really like him. He flashed, very much a lot of upside there in his rookie season. Change of scenery. I like that. DPJ, good for real football. Maybe not so much for fantasy, but good for real football. He's like a good, solid, wide receiver 3 on a team. You got Njoku, who, is having his 10th year breakout here again. and you have Nick Chubb to take some of that pressure off. And I think, to what you were saying with Houston, how he had to chuck the ball around. Well, yeah, it's because they didn't have an offensive line. They didn't have any real talent on that team. So he had to do it all himself. I think with a better offensive line that they have in Cleveland, it's going to allow him to actually go through his progressions and find his receivers. And then if he doesn't find that, he can take off running. So he's got that a little bit of rushing upside. I mean, he's not known to be like a big rusher like Justin Fields or, Josh Allen, anything like that. But he does have rushing upside to him more than just your traditional pocket passers. So that's why I'm kind of in on him. Maybe 9. I would maybe have it a spot or 2 lower. I'd prefer that, more of that bottom of the QB1 range, but I'm okay with QB9. I don't know they'd be higher than that at all, but I think, you're looking at, I like it. I like it.
We're just gonna have to disagree on this one. Let me do a this or that with ADP because I like it, especially for a guy in this position at QB9, because you are still waiting later in your drafts to take him, right? You get the comfort of you don't have to take Deshaun Watson in the first 5 to 6 rounds. It's maybe right after that he would start to go. But Deshaun Watson or Tua Tagovailoa?
Ooh, see, that's interesting. I would probably say Watson, although it's close. I mean, I'll admit it's close.
When you have Tyreek Hill, we'll wait to see if anything happens at all with Tyreek Hill and a possible suspension for his off the field stuff.
Yeah.
If nothing comes of that, which we haven't heard anything about it yet, I'd rather take the guy who has Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill on his offense. And let's say Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers, who has snuck his way up to QB 12.
Give me Deshaun. I'm out on Rodgers.
Is it just because of the shitheadedness of Aaron Rodgers, or is it the actual football stuff?
No, it's the actual football stuff. No,
okay.
As much as I love to bag on and Aaron,
of course,
and I have good reason for it, as this right here, says. So I can separate out my fandom from actual real football. Aaron's going into a new situation. Yeah. He likes to have his chemistry with his guys, and certain players get in the doghouse, and that whole thing. And just switching to a whole new system, I have reservations.
You can have reservations. I understand that. Josh in the chat saying at ADP, Tua over Watson. I agree with that. I do think that Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson is an interesting line. I could see a case for either at ADP. It's not like it's such a massive value and discount on Rodgers, so I get it.